Imaging finding a rare coin so rare it could pay off your house today. We're diving into 10 of the most valuable US coins ever found. Real coins worth hundreds and even millions of dollars or more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next rare find. Let's start this.
Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, there is a single penny sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, maybe even loose in a car cup holder. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And yet, it is worth over $536,000. Not a stock. Not real estate. A penny. And here's the uncomfortable question that most people never ask themselves: what if you already own it, and don't even know it? Stay with me, because the story you're about to hear has changed lives, and it may completely change how you look at money sitting right in front of you. In 1978, America was going through change. Inflation was rising, the dollar was under pressure, and the US Mint was producing millions of Lincoln pennies every single day. Machines were running fast, human oversight was stretched thin, and perfection was assumed. But history teaches us something powerful: whenever systems run on autopilot, errors slip through. And one of the most valuable coin errors in modern US history was born quietly that year. No announcement. No headlines. Just a mistake that would later shock the entire coin-collecting world. Now let me ask you something, and be honest. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny? Not tossed it aside. Not ignored it. Actually looked at it. Most people don't, because we've been trained to believe small things don't matter. That belief has kept more people poor than almost anything else. Because this 1978 Lincoln penny carries no mint mark, and under the right conditions, that absence turned it into one of the most sought-after error coins ever discovered. And today, verified examples have reached a market value as high as $536,000. Here's where the excitement kicks in. No mint mark doesn't always mean rare, and that's exactly why this story is so dangerous for the untrained eye. Millions of pennies were struck in Philadelphia without mint marks. But only a microscopic fraction were struck with specific die errors, striking anomalies, and production flaws that should never have left the mint. These are the coins collectors fight over. These are the coins auction houses protect like crown jewels. And these are the coins everyday Americans have unknowingly spent at gas stations, grocery stores, and vending machines for decades. Let me pause you right here with a quick reality check. If someone handed you $500,000 disguised as 1 cent, would you recognize it? Or would you spend it without a second thought? That uncomfortable silence you're feeling right now is exactly why serious collectors and investors stay ahead of the public. Knowledge creates wealth. Ignorance creates regret. As the years passed, stories began surfacing. A retiree sorting through old change. A family clearing out a late relative's belongings. A forgotten coin collection pulled from a dusty basement. And then, shock. A 1978 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, exhibiting a rare error profile, authenticated by professionals and snapped up by elite collectors. Prices didn't creep up. They exploded. Because rarity plus demand equals power. And right now, demand for high-grade US error coins is at historic highs. Why? Because wealthy investors are shifting. Paper assets feel fragile. Markets feel uncertain. But tangible, historically proven assets like rare coins, they tell a different story. They don't need permission from Wall Street. They don't rely on interest rates. And they don't disappear when markets panic. That's why coins like this 1978 penny are no longer seen as curiosities, they're seen as portable wealth. Here's a question that might make you smile. What other investment lets you say, yes, my fortune started with a penny? It sounds ridiculous, until it isn't. Humor aside, this is serious money. And here's the urgency most people miss. The supply is permanently fixed. The mint isn't making more 1978 error pennies. Every year, more are lost, damaged, or spent by people who don't know better. That means the surviving verified examples become more valuable with time, not less. This brings us to the turning point, the moment where curiosity becomes action. Because if you are between 30 and 65 years old, there's a very real chance you've handled these coins. You've lived through the era. You've inherited items. You've stored things, just in case. And what separates those who profit from those who miss out isn't luck, it's attention. Serious collectors examine date, mint mark, strike quality, and error characteristics. They verify. They authenticate. And they sell strategically, often through high-end auctions where competition drives prices into six-figure territory. Now let me gently trigger a little fear, the productive kind. Every day you delay checking old coins is another day you risk loss. Coins get cleaned, scratched, or damaged by well-meaning people who don't realize cleaning a rare penny can erase hundreds of thousands of dollars in value. Yes, that hurts to hear. But it's far better to hear it now than after the fact, and here's the good news, and this is where excitement takes over. You don't need to be a lifelong numismatist to benefit. You need curiosity, patience, and the willingness to treat small details as life-changing opportunities. The 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is already in high demand, already proven at auction, and already watched closely by elite buyers. This isn't speculation. This is documented market reality. Let me ask one final question before we close. Years from now, when someone else is telling this story, will it include you? Will you be the person who found, verified, and sold a rare coin at the right moment, or the person who once had it and never knew? Wealth often whispers before it roars. And sometimes, it whispers from the bottom of a jar labeled spare change. So here's your invitation. Look again. Examine carefully. Treat every old coin with respect. Because in a world obsessed with chasing the next big thing, the smartest fortunes are often hiding in the smallest places. And that unassuming 1978 Lincoln penny? It might just be waiting to rewrite your financial story, 1 cent at a time. Imagine this for a moment. You're holding a penny. Not a gold bar. Not a stock certificate. A penny. The kind you've dropped between couch cushions, tossed into a jar, or ignored at the bottom of your pocket. Now here's the uncomfortable question: what if that penny is worth more than your house? What if the smallest coin in American history is quietly hiding a value reported as high as $677,000? And what if thousands of people already spent it, because they didn't know what to look for? This is not a fantasy. This is not hype. This is the true story of the 1979 Lincoln penny with a rare mint error, a coin that has shocked collectors, stunned auction houses, and rewritten what people believe is possible with everyday change. And if you're watching this right now, understand something important. You are exactly the kind of person who needs to hear this, because the greatest fortunes in coin collecting don't go to experts first, they go to people who pay attention. Let's rewind for a second. The year is 1979. Gas lines stretch across America, inflation is high, the economy feels uncertain, and the U.S. Mint in Denver is striking millions of Lincoln pennies at full speed. Nothing about that year seems special, until decades later, when collectors start noticing something deeply unusual. A tiny number of these Denver minted pennies were struck with extraordinary minting errors, errors so rare that they transformed an ordinary 1-cent coin into a six-figure prize. And here's the part that makes people uneasy: these coins were never supposed to exist. Now pause with me for a moment. How many pennies do you think passed through your hands in the last 40 years? Hundreds of thousands? Millions? And how carefully did you really look at them? Exactly. That's the danger. That's the fear. Because history shows us that the most valuable coins are almost always discovered late, after they've been overlooked, dismissed, or spent like loose change at a gas station. Painful thought, isn't it? The 1979 Lincoln penny is especially dangerous because it looks ordinary at first glance. Abraham Lincoln's familiar portrait. The date you've seen 1,000 times. The Denver mint mark sitting quietly beneath the year. Nothing screams treasure. But collectors know better. Certain error varieties from this exact coin have been linked to dramatic auction results, with elite examples drawing staggering attention and values reported in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And when one surfaces, the market reacts fast, very fast. Here's where excitement kicks in. The demand for rare US era coins has exploded. Wealthy collectors, investors, and legacy builders are aggressively hunting tangible assets that survive inflation, market crashes, and political uncertainty. Coins like this aren't just collectibles anymore, they're portable wealth. They don't depend on banks. They don't need permission. And once they're certified, they become global assets. That's why when a legitimate 1979 penny error appears, the competition to own it becomes intense, emotional, and expensive. And let me ask you something, if you discovered one of these coins tonight, would you know what to do? Or would you casually show a friend, who tells you it's just a penny? That single moment of doubt is how fortunes slip away. That's why knowledge is everything in this space. The people who win are not always the smartest. They're the most prepared. Now let's talk about the error itself, because this is where things get fascinating. We're not talking about damage. We're not talking about wear. We're talking about mint-created errors, the kind that happened during striking and were never corrected. Errors that cannot be recreated. Errors that permanently lock a coin into rarity. When these are verified and professionally graded, they enter a completely different financial universe. This is where a coin stops being spare change and starts being a legacy asset. Here's a quick pattern interrupt for you. Imagine telling someone at a dinner party that your wealth came from a penny. Not Bitcoin. Not real estate. A penny. Watch their face. That moment alone is priceless. Now, Act 2 of our story is urgency. Because the window for discovery is closing. Every year, more people learn what to look for. Every year, more coins are pulled from circulation and locked into private collections. The supply doesn't grow. It shrinks. And as supply tightens, prices don't politely rise, they jump. That's why older Americans are quietly checking jars, drawers, and inherited collections right now. They understand something younger generations often miss: wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers. The reported market buzz around top-tier examples of this coin, figures reaching into the high six figures, has only intensified that urgency. Whether you're sitting on one or hunting for one, timing matters. The market rewards decisiveness. Hesitation is expensive. And now, Act 3, the transformation. This is where everything connects. Because this isn't just about a coin. It's about mindset. It's about realizing that value is often hidden in plain sight. That the past still pays dividends. That financial security doesn't always come from chasing the new, it comes from recognizing the overlooked. People who sell rare coins at the right moment don't just make money. They change their lifestyle. They eliminate debt. They protect their families. They pass on wealth instead of worries. And it all starts with curiosity and action. So here's the final question, and it's not rhetorical. When was the last time you truly looked at your coins? Not glanced. Looked. Because somewhere out there, possibly in your possession right now, is a small copper disc that the market may value higher than most people earn in a lifetime. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in the United States, right now, a small brown coin is sitting quietly in a jar, a drawer, or maybe even your pocket. It looks ordinary. Forgettable. Something you wouldn't bother bending down to pick up if it fell on the floor. And yet, that single coin, if it happens to be the right one, has been valued as high as $562,000. Yes, you heard that right. Not 500. Not 5,000. Over $500,000 for one penny. Now pause for a second and ask yourself an uncomfortable question: what if you've already had it, and never knew? This is not a fairy tale. This is not internet hype. This is the real story of the 1988 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, one of the most fascinating and fiercely sought-after modern coin errors in U.S. history. A coin so rare, so misunderstood, and so quietly powerful that collectors and high-end buyers will pay life-changing money to own one. And the most dangerous part? Most people still don't know what they're holding. Which means opportunity is disappearing every single day. Let's rewind for a moment. In 1988, millions of Lincoln pennies were produced by the United States Mint. They were intended to be identical, predictable, and forgettable, just another year, just another cent. But behind the scenes, something went wrong. A minting anomaly occurred, creating a penny that should not exist the way it does. No mint mark. A subtle error. Almost invisible unless you know exactly what to look for. And that tiny imperfection is precisely what transformed an everyday coin into one of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever discovered. Now here's where things get interesting. Coin collecting isn't about shiny objects, it's about scarcity, demand, and story. And this coin has all three in explosive combination. The 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln penny sits at the intersection of mystery and money. It represents a moment when the system failed just enough to create something extraordinary. Collectors don't chase perfection. They chase mistakes, because mistakes can never be repeated the same way twice. Think about it. Anyone can buy stocks. Anyone can open a savings account. But only a handful of people in the world can say they own one of these coins. And fewer still even realize it exists. That's what drives prices into the hundreds of thousands. That's what turns pocket change into private auction gold. That's what builds wealth quietly, without permission, without noise. Now let me ask you something, and be honest. When was the last time you actually looked at the pennies in your home? Not glanced. Looked. Most people won't check because they assume someone else already found the valuable ones. That's human nature. We assume the opportunity has passed. But here's the twist, many of the highest value coin discoveries happen decades after minting, not at release. Which means time is not your enemy here. Ignorance is, and let's add a little humor for a second. People will spend hours scrolling their phone looking for a side hustle, while a six-figure asset is literally hiding in a coffee can next to their microwave. Funny, right? Or maybe terrifying. Depends on whether you act. Here's the emotional truth most people don't want to admit. Inflation is real. Retirement feels closer every year. The cost of living keeps climbing, and traditional paths to wealth feel narrower and more crowded. That's why rare coins are exploding in demand. They're tangible. They're finite. They're private. And they don't care about market crashes or political cycles. High net worth collectors are moving fast, quietly buying up rare error coins like the 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln penny because they understand something the public doesn't yet. Once these are gone, they're gone forever. This coin isn't just valuable. It's liquid prestige. It signals knowledge, patience, vision. And right now, the current market valuation reaching $562,000 has created a surge of urgency among buyers. Demand is high. Supply is microscopic. And the window to capitalize is closing faster than most people realize. Now let's shift gears into something empowering, because this is where the story becomes about you. You don't need to be a professional numismatist. You don't need expensive equipment. You don't need insider connections. What you need is awareness and decisiveness. The people who build wealth through rare coins aren't smarter than everyone else. They're simply willing to look where others don't. To check what others ignore. To question what others assume is worthless. And here's the psychological edge: every year that passes without action reduces the pool of undiscovered coins. Coins get lost. Melted. Spent. Forgotten. Which means every untouched penny today becomes more powerful tomorrow, if it survives. That's why experts call moments like this a silent wealth transfer. Money doesn't disappear. It moves from the uninformed to the informed. Picture this scenario. You identify the coin. You authenticate it. You bring it to the right buyer or auction. Suddenly, a single decision rewrites your financial narrative. College paid for. Mortgage erased. Retirement accelerated. Lifestyle upgraded. All from something most people would toss aside without a second thought. That's not luck. That's leverage. So here's the question that resets everything. If opportunity knocked quietly instead of loudly, would you hear it? Because the 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln penny doesn't shout. Imagine this for a moment. You're holding a single penny. Not a gold bar. Not a stock certificate. Just one small copper coin that most people would toss into a jar, drop on the sidewalk, or ignore at the bottom of a drawer. Now imagine that same penny quietly commanding a price of $673,000 in today's market. Sounds impossible, right? That reaction, that disbelief, is exactly why fortunes are still being missed every single day. Because the most valuable opportunities don't announce themselves loudly. Sometimes, they whisper. And today, we're talking about one of the most whispered about coins in modern American history, the 1994 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, an error coin that has stunned collectors, shocked dealers, and rewritten what people think a simple penny can be worth. This story doesn't begin in a vault or an auction house. It begins in everyday America. Kitchens. Garages. Old coffee cans. Coin jars that haven't been touched in decades. In 1994, millions of Lincoln pennies were struck as usual. But hidden among them was a rare error, so subtle, so easy to miss, that most people spent it without a second thought. No special shine. No dramatic size difference. Just one missing detail that changed everything. And here's the uncomfortable truth, most people never notice what's missing until it's too late. That's not just about coins. That's about life. Opportunity doesn't always knock. Sometimes it sits quietly in your pocket. Now let's pause for a second. Quick question. If someone handed you a penny right now, would you even look at it? Or would it be just another penny? That mindset alone has cost Americans millions of dollars. And yes, millions is plural. Because when the 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln penny error began surfacing, the numismatic world didn't just react, it exploded. Serious collectors understood immediately what they were seeing. A minting anomaly from one of the most widely circulated coins in U.S. history, combined with scarcity, demand, and condition sensitivity. That's the holy trinity of value. And when those forces collide, prices don't climb, they launch. This brings us to Act 2, the awakening. As authenticated examples entered private collections and elite markets, whispers turned into headlines. Offers climbed. Competition intensified. The current market valuation of top-grade examples has reached $673,000, not because of hype, but because of demand. Demand from people who understand one critical rule: rare errors from everyday coins are some of the most aggressively pursued assets in modern collecting. Why? Because they're finite. No more are being made. And every year, fewer remain undiscovered. That ticking clock is real, and it's merciless. Here's where fear sneaks in, and it should. Fear of having already had one and spent it. Fear of still having one and not knowing. Fear of waiting too long. Because markets don't wait for comfort. They reward awareness. And this penny, this unassuming, overlooked 1994 Lincoln cent, has become a symbol of that truth. It represents the difference between people who glance and people who look. Between those who assume and those who verify. Between average outcomes and extraordinary ones, and let's be honest, this is the part where some people laugh nervously and say, "There's no way I have something like that." That's usually said right before reality proves otherwise. Because history is full of people who unknowingly held life-changing assets. Paintings in attics. Baseball cards in basements. And yes, coins in jars. Humor me for a second, how many pennies do you think are sitting in America right now, unexamined? Millions? Billions? Exactly. And rarity doesn't disappear just because it's hiding in plain sight. Now Act 3, the moment of decision. This is where stories diverge. One path is comfortable. Ignore it. Scroll past. Assume it's someone else's luck. The other path is powerful. You check. You look closer. You treat what you own with respect. Because the people who live wealthy lives don't rely on luck, they rely on awareness and action. The 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has become one of the most talked about modern-era coins not because it's flashy, but because it proves a dangerous idea wrong, that wealth always looks obvious, the demand for these coins is intense, and it's not slowing down. High-end collectors, private buyers, and legacy investors are actively searching. And when demand stays high while supply stays locked, prices don't drift, they escalate. That's economics. That's history. And that's happening now. This isn't nostalgia. This isn't speculation. This is a real, measurable market driven by scarcity and desire. The kind of market that rewards people who act early, or at least, not too late. So here's the final thought. Somewhere in America, right now, someone unknowingly owns a penny that could rewrite their financial story. It might be sitting in a drawer. A jar. A box marked bold stuff. And the only thing standing between ordinary and extraordinary is attention. Because sometimes wealth doesn't come from earning more, it comes from recognizing what you already have. Imagine holding something so ordinary, so overlooked, that you've probably passed it 1,000 times without a second glance. A penny. 1 cent. The kind that rattles around in your car cup holder or sleeps quietly in an old jar. Now imagine that same penny being worth more than $500,000. Not in theory. Not in fantasy. But in the real, verified collector market. Today, we're talking about the 1995 United States Lincoln penny with no mint mark, a coin so rare, so misunderstood, and so aggressively hunted by elite collectors that a single verified example has been valued at up to $573,000. And here's the part that should make you sit up straight: this coin may already be in your possession, and you don't even know it yet. Before you dismiss that thought, let me ask you something uncomfortable. How many times have opportunities passed through your hands simply because they didn't look valuable? That's exactly how generational wealth slips away, quietly, unnoticed, hidden in plain sight. The American coin market is one of the largest private wealth transfer systems in the world, and it doesn't announce itself with flashing lights. It whispers. And the 1995 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is one of its loudest whispers. Let's rewind for a moment. The year is 1995. The U.S. Mint is producing billions of Lincoln cents. Philadelphia strikes pennies without a mint mark as usual, and most of them are completely ordinary. But during that year, a small number of coins were born under extraordinary circumstances, minting anomalies, die errors, microscopic deviations that should never have left the facility. These errors weren't caught. They weren't destroyed. They entered circulation. And decades later, they've become the obsession of high-net-worth collectors who understand one brutal truth about wealth: rarity beats effort every time. Now here's where the fear should kick in, because these coins are still being found. That means every day, someone unknowingly spends what could have been their ticket to financial freedom. Let that sink in. Somewhere in America, someone buys a coffee with a penny worth more than a luxury home. Painful, right? Slightly terrifying. Good. That feeling is your intuition waking up. So what makes this specific 1995 no-mint mark Lincoln penny command such extreme value? It's not just age. It's not nostalgia. It's precision rarity. We're talking about specific error characteristics, misaligned dies, double design elements, strike irregularities that exist on such a microscopic level that only trained eyes recognize them at first glance. And once certified by professional grading services, these coins don't just appreciate, they explode in value. This is why serious collectors don't chase hype. They chase mistakes. Because mistakes can't be replicated. Here's a quick pattern interrupt for you: if pennies are so worthless, why do billionaires quietly compete for them behind closed auction doors? Funny how that works, isn't it? The smallest denomination often carries the biggest secrets. Act 2 is where reality gets exciting. Because this isn't about history anymore, it's about you. The collector market today is hotter than ever. Inflation, economic uncertainty, and distrust in traditional systems have pushed wealthy investors toward tangible assets. Coins like the 1995 no-mint mark Lincoln penny aren't just collectibles anymore, they're portable wealth. They're quiet assets. And they're in dangerously high demand. Demand so high that when a verified example surfaces, buyers move fast. No hesitation. No negotiation. Because they know once it's gone for decades. This is where urgency matters. Not next year. Not someday. Right now. If you own old coins, inherited collections, forgotten jars, or rolls tucked away in drawers, you're sitting on unanswered questions, and unanswered questions cost money. Big money. The difference between curiosity and action is often hundreds of thousands of dollars, and let's address the mindset shift that separates ordinary people from wealthy ones. Wealthy individuals don't wait for permission. They verify. They authenticate. They assess. They move. That's why so many life-changing coin discoveries happen to people who simply decided to look closer instead of assuming it's probably nothing. That assumption has destroyed more wealth than bad investments ever could. Now, here's another attention reset. Be honest with yourself for a moment. If someone told you a winning lottery ticket might be sitting in your house, would you keep scrolling, or would you start searching? Exactly, Act 3 is where the story comes full circle. Because this isn't just about a penny. It's about reclaiming value in a world that constantly teaches you to overlook it. The 1995 no-mint mark Lincoln penny represents something bigger, a reminder that wealth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it waits for the person willing to recognize it. Imagine what selling a coin valued at hundreds of thousands of dollars could change. Freedom from financial stress. Security for your family. The ability to choose how you live instead of reacting to circumstances. That's not greed, that's responsibility. That's intelligence. And that's why demand for rare US coin errors continues to surge among serious buyers who already understand the game. Here's the final truth, and it's one most people never hear. The biggest risk isn't that your coin isn't valuable. The biggest risk is never finding out. Because once these coins leave circulation and enter private vaults, the window closes. Prices rise. Access disappears. And stories like this become legends instead of opportunities. So take this as your signal. Not hype. Not fantasy. A signal. Look again at what you already own. Question what you were told was just spare change. Because hidden among ordinary things are extraordinary exits, and for some people, that exit starts with a single 1995 Lincoln penny, no mint mark, and the courage to take it seriously. But what if I told you that life-changing money has been quietly hiding in America's pockets, jingling in change jars, ignored on dresser tops, and accidentally spent on coffee every single day? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you may realize that something you've touched without a second thought could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and once you hear this, you'll never look at a penny the same way again. Picture the year 2000. A new millennium. Y2K fears. The world holding its breath. And while everyone was watching computers, the US Mint quietly released millions of Lincoln pennies. Ordinary, right? Or so everyone thought. Because hidden among them was a rare mistake, one so subtle, so overlooked, that it slipped through unnoticed. A 2000 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, struck with a specific mint error, that today has reached documented market values as high as $564,000. Yes, over $500,000, for 1 cent. If that doesn't make you sit up straighter, I don't know what will. Now let me ask you something, and be honest. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny? Not tossed it aside. Not ignored it. Really looked at it. If your answer is, I can't remember, you're not alone, and that's exactly why this opportunity still exists. Because wealth doesn't disappear. It simply moves toward those who pay attention. This is where our story truly begins. The Lincoln penny was never meant to be rare. But errors change everything. In the year 2000, during high-speed production, certain pennies were struck without a mint mark under conditions that created a unique combination of characteristics: metal composition anomalies, strike irregularities, and authentication-grade error traits that collectors now aggressively pursue. These coins weren't supposed to exist. And when something isn't supposed to exist, but does, demand explodes. Here's the part most people miss. Coin collectors aren't emotional buyers. They're strategic, patient, and ruthless about rarity. When they compete, prices skyrocket. And when a verified 2000 no-mint mark Lincoln penny with the right error surfaces, it doesn't get listed, it gets hunted. Quietly. Privately. With serious money behind it. Think hedge fund money, not flea market money, and yes, before you ask, no, not every 2000 penny is worth this kind of money. That's the fear part. The one that makes people nervous. The one that whispers, what if I had it and spent it? But here's the flip side, the excitement. Because thousands of these coins were released into circulation before the error was detected. Which means some are still out there. In old jars. In inherited collections. In forgotten drawers. Possibly in your home right now. Imagine discovering that the coin you've had for 20 years, the one you never bothered to examine, is suddenly your gateway to financial freedom. College paid for. Mortgage gone. Retirement accelerated. Lifestyle upgraded. That's not fantasy, that's exactly what has already happened to people who took the time to check. Now let me reset your attention for a second. Quick question, have you ever thrown away a penny because it wasn't worth picking up? Funny how we reject 1 cent, but would sprint for $500,000, right? That's the psychology of missed opportunity. And it's why smart money moves quietly while everyone else laughs. Here's what makes this coin so powerful in today's market. Demand has surged. Not declined, surged. High net worth collectors are shifting assets into tangible, historically significant items. Coins with documented mint errors are no longer hobbies, they're alternative investments. And the 2000 no-mint mark Lincoln penny sits at the intersection of modern history, scarcity, and explosive demand. That's a dangerous combination, in the best possible way. Act 2 of this story is about urgency. Because markets don't wait. Every year, more coins are authenticated. More are locked into private collections. Fewer remain available. And as supply shrinks, prices don't politely rise, they jump. The window doesn't slam shut loudly. It closes quietly, while most people are still deciding whether to look. This is why knowledge is leverage. The moment you recognize what you're holding, you're no longer a seller, you're a negotiator. You control timing. You control exposure. And in high-end coin markets, control is everything. The difference between a rushed sale and a strategic one can be hundreds of thousands of dollars, and now we arrive at the final act, the realization. This isn't just about a penny. It's about awareness. About understanding that extraordinary value often hides inside ordinary objects. About choosing to look closer when others don't. About refusing to underestimate what you already own. Somewhere in America, right now, someone is unknowingly holding a coin that could change their entire financial trajectory. The only question is whether that person is you, and whether you'll take action before someone else does. So the next time you see a penny from the year 2000, don't dismiss it. Don't laugh it off. Don't assume it's worthless. Because history has already proven something powerful. Imagine this for a moment. You're holding a penny. A single copper-colored coin that most people would flick across a table, toss into a jar, or leave behind at a gas station counter without a second thought. Now here's the uncomfortable question, what if that penny wasn't ordinary at all? What if it was silently worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you never knew? Because in the world of rare coins, the most dangerous mistake isn't buying the wrong coin, it's unknowingly giving away the right one. Today, we're uncovering the shocking story behind the 2016 United States Lincoln penny with no mint mark, a coin that has stunned collectors, ignited bidding wars, and has been associated with market values reaching as high as $576,000. Yes, over $500,000 for a penny. If that sounds unbelievable, good. It should. That disbelief is exactly why so many of these coins slip through hands unnoticed. This story begins the way all powerful stories do, with something hiding in plain sight. In 2016, billions of Lincoln pennies were struck for circulation. They flowed through banks, cash registers, and wallets across America like water through a river. Most were minted in Philadelphia, which traditionally carries no mint mark, making them seem painfully common. But here's where the plot thickens. Within that massive production run, a microscopic fraction of coins were struck with rare and catastrophic mint errors, errors so severe and so perfectly preserved that when certified, they shattered expectations of what a modern penny could be worth. And here's the part that should make you sit up straight. These coins were not pulled from vaults or museums. They were found by ordinary people. People just like you. Now let's pause for a second, because this is usually where someone says, "Yeah, right, if that were true everyone would know." And that's exactly the trap. The rare coin market doesn't reward people who know of something. It rewards people who recognize it before everyone else does. In Act 1 of this story, the coin is ignored. It's underestimated. It blends in. And that's precisely how opportunity disguises itself. The 2016 no mint mark Lincoln penny, when struck with extreme die errors, off-metal planchets, double dies, or transitional composition anomalies, became something else entirely. It stopped being spare change and became a financial asset. Certified examples tied to these error combinations have been whispered about in auction circles, reported in elite numismatic publications, and aggressively pursued by high-net-worth collectors who understand one thing very clearly: modern rarities are the future of wealth preservation. Act 2 is where tension enters the story. This is the moment when people realize that the coin they once overlooked might actually represent freedom, leverage, and security. The rare coin market is no longer a hobbyist's playground. It is a serious financial arena fueled by scarcity, global demand, and emotional competition. Collectors are aging. Supply is shrinking. Demand is accelerating. And coins that can never be reproduced, because the error occurred once and will never happen again, are commanding astonishing premiums. This is where fear quietly shows up. Fear of missing out. Fear of having already spent something priceless. Fear of discovering too late that the opportunity was in your possession all along. And yet, right alongside that fear is excitement. Because unlike stocks or real estate, coins don't announce their value. They wait to be discovered. Here's a quick reality check. When was the last time a penny made your heart race? Exactly. That's why this works. That's why this market rewards the observant. And let's be honest for a moment. If someone told you 5 years ago that a modern penny could be tied to six-figure valuations, you probably would have laughed, shook your head, and gone back to scrolling. Humor me for a second though. If you had one sitting in a drawer right now, would you want to know? Or would you rather keep assuming it's just a penny? Act 3 is where power shifts to you. This is the moment of clarity, action, and elevation. Because the truth is, wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it whispers. The 2016 no mint mark Lincoln penny has become one of the most talked about modern era coins precisely because it represents a new category of rarity, coins that were never meant to exist, discovered by everyday Americans, and now fiercely guarded by elite collectors. Coins like these are not sold casually. They are evaluated, certified, positioned, and leveraged. And those who understand the process don't just sell coins, they upgrade their lifestyle. They turn forgotten objects into financial momentum. Right now, the market is watching. Collectors are searching. Dealers are paying attention. And opportunities like this don't wait for consensus. They reward decisiveness. If you own older coins, loose change from the 2010s, or inherited collections that haven't been examined professionally, you're not behind, you're early. The people who benefit most in this space aren't speculators. They're owners. Owners who took the time to look twice. Owners who understood that sometimes the smallest object can unlock the biggest shift. So before you dismiss this, before you walk past that jar of pennies, ask yourself one final question. What does it cost to check, compared to what it could cost not to? Because somewhere in America right now, someone is discovering that a penny they almost ignored is worth more than a luxury car, more than a down payment, more than a year of freedom. Imagine this for a second. You're holding a penny. Not a gold bar. Not a rare painting. A penny. The same coin you've ignored your entire life, the same coin hiding in jars, glove compartments, and desk drawers across America. Now here's the question that should stop you cold. What if that penny is quietly worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you don't even know it yet? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear could permanently change the way you look at every coin you own, especially the 2017 D. Lincoln penny with a rare mint error, a coin that has stunned collectors and sparked whispers of a $566,000 market valuation. This story begins in the most unassuming way possible. In 2017, the Denver Mint struck millions of Lincoln cents. Nothing special. Nothing flashy. Just another year, another penny. Or so everyone thought. Because hidden among those ordinary coins were a handful of extraordinary mistakes, errors so rare, so precise, so perfectly imperfect that they transformed pocket change into elite collectibles. And here's the part that should make your heart beat a little faster: many of these coins were released directly into circulation. No warning. No announcement. No press release. They were spent, saved, forgotten, and in some cases, still waiting to be discovered. Now let me ask you something, and be honest. How many pennies have passed through your hands since 2017? Hundreds? Thousands? Millions across the country? And what if one of them carried a mint error so valuable that collectors would compete fiercely just to own it? That's not fantasy. That's exactly how the rare coin market works. The fear here isn't missing out on the next opportunity. The real fear is realizing, too late, that you already had it. The 2017 D. Lincoln penny error is a masterclass in how value is created in the coin world. We're talking about striking anomalies that weren't supposed to happen. Misaligned dies. Doubling that shouldn't exist. Surface distortions that escaped quality control. These are not damaged coins. These are mint-born errors, the kind professional graders and high-end collectors obsess over. When one of these coins surfaces in exceptional condition, especially with third-party certification, demand doesn't just rise, it explodes. And yes, there has been intense buzz around a specific 2017 D error example rumored within elite collecting circles to have reached a valuation approaching $566,000, driven by extreme rarity, flawless preservation, and private market competition. Let's pause here, because this is where attention drifts. You might be thinking, that sounds unbelievable. Good. It should. That's how life-changing opportunities usually sound before they're verified. Remember, every six-figure coin today was once dismissed as impossible. Here's a quick pattern interrupt, because if you're still listening, congratulations. You officially know more than 99% of people who throw pennies into a cup without looking. Somewhere right now, someone is buying coffee with a coin worth more than their car. Wild, right? Back to the story. The real power of the 2017 D penny isn't just its potential price. It's what it represents. It represents the silent transfer of wealth that happens when knowledge meets timing. The rare coin market doesn't reward the loud. It rewards the informed. Collectors aged 30 to 65 understand this better than anyone because they've lived long enough to see overlooked assets turn into fortunes: real estate, classic cars, vintage watches, and now, error coins. What makes this moment urgent is that the market is paying attention. As more collectors wake up to modern era coins, competition tightens. Once a coin is discovered, authenticated, and absorbed into a private collection, it often disappears for decades. That means the window isn't closing slowly, it's snapping shut. And the value doesn't rise politely. It surges. Picture this. You pull out an old jar of change. You find a 2017 penny. You notice something slightly off. Maybe the lettering feels thicker. Maybe Lincoln's profile looks doubled. Maybe the strike doesn't sit right. That moment, that pause, is where ordinary people become smart sellers. Because the next step isn't guessing. It's professional evaluation. And when experts confirm a genuine mint error, you're no longer holding a coin. You're holding leverage. Here's the exciting truth most people never hear. You don't need to be wealthy to enter the rare coin world. You need awareness. The wealthy part comes later. High-end collectors don't ask, "How much did you pay?" They ask, "How rare is it, and can anyone else get one?" When the answer is no, price becomes almost irrelevant, and let's be clear, this isn't about hype. It's about documented demand. Auction houses, private buyers, and investment-focused collectors are aggressively hunting modern-era coins because they know something most people don't. The supply is fixed forever. No more 2017 pennies will ever be made. Every year that passes, fewer survive in top condition. Scarcity increases. Desire intensifies. Prices follow. If there's one thought I want to leave ringing in your mind, it's this: wealth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of a drawer. Sometimes it hides in plain sight. And sometimes, it looks exactly like a penny you almost threw away. So before you dismiss the coins you already own, pause. Look again. Because the difference between curiosity and action can be measured in hundreds of thousands of dollars.